Nikki, I have all this smushy clay and I don't know what to do with it. I keep messing up on the potter's wheel and I don't want to throw this clay out. I want to reuse it. Well, let me show you how. You're going to lay your clay out on your plaster wedging table that came with you when you picked up your wheels and your equipment and your clay. So you want to lay your wet clay out on this plaster table. You might have to flip it over once or twice to get all the surface water soaked out of it. And then once it all comes together and peels away pretty easily, you're able to wedge it. Wedging clay is an incredibly important and fundamental skill for throwing and working in ceramics. All potters wedge clay. It's a pain in the butt, but it's absolutely the most important thing you can do is to rid your clay of any air pockets. And clay that has been thrown a handful of times is just going to be loaded with air pockets. You can't smush it back down and rethrow it. It has to be wedged. It's best to wedge clay in a larger hunk, 2 big hunks like this, smushed together. Anything big or small, wedging small pieces of clay is a lot more difficult. So how we wedge is pretty straightforward, but it takes a little skill. You want to be standing when you're at the table to wedge. You want to put one leg forward and one leg back so you can rock as you wedge, and you want to keep your core tight and use as much of your upper body and not your back muscles to wedge. To do this, we want to start by pressing down with the heels of our hands on either side and pushing the clay down and away from us. We then peel the clay all the way up on its very tip, press down into the clay again and then away, sort of like the letter J motion. We do this multiple times and it really starts to push the air pockets out. Once this gets long, you take the clay, roll it up, tip it up on its end, and do it again. Peel the clay all the way up, push it down, and gently stretch it out on the wedging table. As you do this, you will start to get into a much faster rhythm. And then you'll start to hear your air bubbles pop in your clay. And you'll also start to see them pop along the ridge of the clay here. You'll start to see them kind of come out along the ridges. And you have to wedge your balls of clay at least 25 times to get all the air pockets out. Troubleshooting wedging issues. This is what I see a lot of students do. I see a lot of students take their clay and they smear it out so far that when they pull it back up, boop, they trap big air pockets inside. When you spread your clay down, when you push it down, it's just a little nudge. Most of the clay, if you notice, is up in the palms of my hands. The other thing that students often do is they tend to not pull the clay all the way up. They only pull it up part of the way. And then all of a sudden, you're all flattened out with this weird flabby piece of clay. So you want to make sure that when you're wedging, you pull that clay all the way up when you pull the clay up to push it back down again onto the tip. The other thing that students sometimes do is they wedge clay and the clay is just way too hard. Guys, do not wedge clay that is too firm. You will hurt your wrists, okay? Only wedge nice soft clay as soft as it is out of the bag. If your clay gets too firm, you have to chunk it up in little pieces, put it in a plastic bag, add some water, get it soft, put it back on the wedging table, get it into a ball, and then re-wedge it. I'm gonna cut this in half. Look and see, beautiful, smooth, no air pockets.